So, my guest on this episode of the Neil Wilkins podcast is Jonathan Kvarfordt. Now, Jonathan is a revenue leader, go-to-market sales strategist, and has a passion for eliminating friction in the sales and marketing cycle. He's head of GTM Growth at Momentum.io, as well as founder of GTM AI Academy. He's helping companies all over rethink how they structure their tech stacks, how they collaborate across teams, how they use AI, not just for analysis, but to fuel growth plans. Now, this is stuff that makes a difference. So I'm very, very excited to get into this conversation. Jonathan, welcome.
Neil, thank you so much for having me. I need to have you record that for me. Let me take that recording because your voice doing that sounds way better than my own voice doing an intro. I need to have you come with me everywhere.
You are too kind. I think we could do this in reverse. We'll do a swap. Yes, because I always wonder kind of how well it works. But, fellow podcast host, yes, you
That's
know
right.
what I need as well. So
I,
it's all good.
I like it. I like it.
Great. So, just kind of a little bit of background for those who aren't familiar with your podcast and with the work that you're
Sure.
doing. A little bit of a backstory.
I'll do a quick version. So the hopefully less than 5 minute version is I actually grew up. My dad owned a tire and mechanic shop when I was a kid, so I grew up actually busting tires and eventually selling car stuff when I was a teenager, and then ran the shop for a long time. So my sales was car, tire and wheel improvement type stuff since I was a kid, and then I was in sales for 10, 15 years through my teens to late 20s to kind of just selling, and then I shifted over to enablement and RevOps. So I did a lot of content and coaching and training, and both for Fortune 500 companies as well as startups. So I've kind of been across the board, and my industry experience has been from kind of varied, from trucking to retail to SaaS to all over the place. So I've experienced a lot of different industries doing the same type of work, but they're very different based on what the needs are. And the I had this transition where, not an official transition, but 4 or 5 years ago, the company I was with doing enablement, they had bought an AI technology, and the guy who literally built his own model became the VP of AI. And I was in charge of making sure we could enable both the sales team and the customers on what the heck AI was and how to use it and all this kind of stuff. And that's where I got my first training, so to speak, on AI, was from this guy who built his own model. And then he introduced me to ChatGPT when it first launched in November a couple of years ago. And I was one of the other 10 bajillion people who joined up at the same time. And then since then, though, what I realized is that people were using it in ways that wasn't as effective as it could be. And I only say that because I had someone who was an expert showing me how to use a good AI technology. And then I launched the GTM AI Academy 2 years ago, a month after it launched, and haven't looked back, and just been deep in the go-to-market AI space, helping people with both strategy of AI as well as tactically or applications of how to use it day to day in your own role. So I talk to leaders of massive companies, or I talk to a salesperson saying, how do I use this to build more pipeline from a salesperson point of view? So I kind of cross the gamut. Since then, I launched the GTM AI podcast a couple of years ago. We're on our, I think, 80th episode so far, something like that. I do them every week. And then I teach at Bryant University AI 101 and AI for sales. I've had several thousand people go through the Academy for AI, and then I consult or advise several different AI companies who are in the startup world. And then Momentum.io is a AI orchestration platform. So I'm living, breathing, eating, teaching AI all day, every day, which is a lot of fun. Oh, that was less than 5 minutes. It's 2 minutes. There we go.
Amazing. Yes. I mean, there really is a kind of woof, hold on tight because
Yeah,
Jonathan's done some stuff here. Do you think, I mean, just taking a little step back before we kind of get deep into the AI stuff,
sure.
do you think it's the fact that you've operated across a whole range of different sectors that has kind of given you that almost that appetite for change? Because I'm seeing there's a real spectrum of people here. There's those who embrace change, getting really excited about AI and the opportunity, and those
Yeah.
who like familiarity and let's call it a normal, who are quite either
Yeah.
resistant or fearful. Are you seeing that kind of thing yourself?
Yeah, I've been gifted, which I didn't always feel this way, but I've been gifted of working short term in a lot of different places, which required me to learn a lot of stuff very quickly. And being in enable and RevOps, it's a little bit different position because in Enable and RevOps, you have to understand the entire customer journey, which means you understand the product, the value prop, the process, all that kind of thing. And so it forced me to be able to understand very intimate details about a lot of different companies in a very short period of time. So I like that. I like having the change. And so being in AI has just helped me with that. Now, to be fair, I used to do that every year to 2 years, depending on what was happening. And now with AI, it's literally every week something news coming out. So just the sheer volume and speed of which what's happening with AI, it can be incredibly overwhelming. I'm even getting overwhelmed. In fact, the people who I consider experts, I don't consider myself an expert. I consider myself a nerd. I know experts and I'm not to their level, but even the experts or people who I consider experts, even they're saying I'm overwhelmed. And if they're saying that, then I know that everybody else is going to feel the same way. But from a consumer point of view, as well as like a expertise point of view of just the sheer volume of what's happening with AI, you know? So if anyone out there is feeling the same way, I always tell people focus on one thing at a time, because like if you try to keep up with everything happening, it's going to be too overwhelming and then you get paralyzed. So it's this balance between, yes, being open for change, but I still think that consistency over time is the key of human success, even using AI. It's just being able to adjust as you do it consistently.
Yeah, and I think there's the thing, isn't it, really? Is just kind of almost betting on the right horse or being in the right place at the right time or taking the
Yep.
right advice from the right person as to where
Right.
to focus, because the options are almost limitless. I mean, I think that's the definition of what we're playing with here. I mean, if you're a marketer, you're coming at this probably initially from, hey, write me some good content for the next social post. If you're a salesperson, it might be, hey, refine this pitch to this particular prospect or kind of
Mhm.
potential client. But that is very much kind of ground zero with all of this, isn't it? And this is kind
Yeah.
of where we're starting from. Are you seeing a pattern of where people take that next step? Because I'm guessing everybody listening to this has had a little play. You know, they've got ChatGPT out and they've kind of put a few little prompts in, probably made a real mess of things. But then they want to take that next step. They want to kind of go just a little step deeper or get a little bit more intimate in that relationship with the AI. And we'll come on to kind of how you do that in a while. But are you seeing a sort of a natural second step in the process of engaging with AI?
It's a really good question because I think it changes based on the person and your own appetite for speed. But I think a natural progression once there's a couple different levels. The first one is most people experience ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini are one of the main models, right? From there, it's expanding yourself to a few other different types of AI. So whether that's like a text to image generator or a text to video or some sort of voice agent like 11 Labs or something, it's usually experiencing some other form of AI outside of your main LLM model you might be using. That's usually the next progression. I think it's a very good one to have because there's so much out there in just what we have available. The next progression, naturally, though, is going from the world of I'm having to prompt something either by voice or by typing an AI to do something. The next level is when I'm creating an agent or some sort of automation that's doing things for me, and I'm not prompting it to go do it for me. You know, just this last week, OpenAI just released their own agent, which is their own version of like a GenSpark or a Manus, but it's able to do some pretty incredible things that most people aren't prepared for. But because OpenAI rolled it out to everybody in ChatGPT, that means that the mass market is now going to experience this ability of agentic type workflows that they'll be able to get a taste of what is possible, you know. So it'll be an interesting world to see what people are able or willing to do, because a lot of this is trusting the AI to have access to different technologies. Like, for example, I'm not going to give AI access to my bank. I could, but I'm not going to. It's like, what extent or how far are you willing to trust an AI agent to do things for you? And what can you do that's creative so that even the things that's not like checking my bank account, but maybe it is something like helping me with my calendar or something like that. What are things that I need done that are usually taking my time or bandwidth mentally that I can hand off to an agent so I can have more time for me to do what only I can do with my brain that can't be duplicated with an AI? So I think after experiencing multiple AI tools is going to be the automation piece, or at least trusting an AI more with tasks that you're doing day to day.
I wanted to come very quickly onto this automation piece because I know you've done a lot of work in this area, and I guess it sort
Yes.
of continues to be. And I suppose there is a natural affinity for anybody really in sales and marketing to kind of figure out what their processes are. I mean, we're very process driven, contrary to people who are
Right.
outside of sales and marketing. They think it's all about communication and chatting, but actually we are process. That is what we do. So
Yes.
if we take that as a kind of a definition, I know that you
Yeah.
talk about CRM automation and automating, the whole customer relationship management piece, sales pipeline, whatever you'd like to call it. Is it that we should very quickly then at that next step into using or engaging with AI start to be mapping those processes? Because that would seem like a way of keeping some semblance of control here.
Most people, when I come in to do any type of AI strategy, what I'm doing most of the time is half of the work that I do is enablement, go to market, foundational work. It has nothing to do with AI. It has to do with like, what's your sales process? What's your exit criteria? Have you defined your ICP? Which AI can absolutely help with all of them, but AI is not going to decide my exit criteria. It can suggest exit criteria. It can suggest ICP, but I'm the one who has to decide on who I'm going after, and then use AI as a leverage to better make the messaging or fine tune or that kind of stuff. So a lot of the times I find myself doing the work that I have done in the past for years on just basic strategy work and like the fine tuning of processes, because AI can't automate a process that's non-existing. It's not just magically going to create a sales process and then automate it like crazy. So funny enough, I think doing the mundane work is half of what people do in AI that no one likes to talk about because it's the not sexy, not fun stuff. But once you get it done, I feel like it's almost like a rubber band where when I go into work with people, I have to pull them back. So it feels like literally you're going backwards. But as soon as you get the process in place, everything's running, I let go and poof, people just take off way faster and they catch up way, I guess, more speed faster than they would have thought, just because even though you've gone backwards for like a month understanding what your processes are, after that month, you accelerate by a year because you're just so much faster, so much more nimble than you would have been before because you did the hard work of understanding some of the basic fundamentals. So for anyone listening, I would say, if you haven't mapped out your process, use AI to do it, but you got to make sure you have the 10-step process of whatever your scenario is, because after you have that, then it's incredibly easy to then interject AI into that process to make your life way easier. Otherwise, if you don't have it, it's going to be very difficult to do.
So this is something I think that is actually quite profound that you're talking about here, because it kind of suggests then, if you're right, and I think you probably are right, but if you're right, that it's going to be a filter that will separate the great businesses from the also rans. What it's going to do is it's going to say, if you've got a solid business structure, or if you're working with somebody like Jonathan who can help you to do that, so you get a real professional in to kind of craft this with you, then you're going to be accelerating that rather than being the organization who doesn't have processes. We just kind of reinvent ourselves every day. We're not very strategic. That's going to really put some clear water between those two styles of organization or approaches, isn't it? So rather than, I think a lot of people have said, oh, it's just going to bring everybody up to the same level. But actually, I think what you're suggesting is it's going to make more of a differential between those who are really solid and those who are actually quite weak. It's going to really highlight those differences, isn't it?
Well, when you think about AI, kind of like electricity, AI is just power. Everyone has access to power. Everyone does. It's more about how is the power being applied. You can be applied in good ways or bad ways. You can have an electric chair, or you can light up a city and heat people in cold. Like, it just depends on how the power is being applied. I believe that the people, even though AI's abilities are being democratized, which I think is a very, very good thing, it's really going to come down to how it is applied, which will come down to the human and how they actually apply it, or to the teams or the companies and how they apply the AI. And if they're not really willing or able to do that, it's kind of like, in another sense, if I can compare it to a different thing, if anyone listens to the YC Combinator podcast, which I highly recommend you do from an AI perspective, they talk about this a lot, where the magic from a tech point of view of what someone's able to do to release true power of AI is not the AI technology. I mean, it is AI technology, but because everyone has access to it, what the differentiator is not the AI tech. It's the domain expertise of the human applying the AI tech. The same thing could be applied for any company who wants to apply AI it's not that you all of a sudden have this automation platform or this AI platform you have access to. It's how well the domain expertise on your systems, your process, your stuff is that you can then apply AI to that will accelerate you better than anyone else. Because the teams who are willing to do the hard work of understanding the systems and processes and also the stuff of your own team and then apply AI to it will out accelerate any team that just throws AI at the problem and hopes that it fixes it. It's just not going to happen the same way.
There's a wake-up call, I think, for a lot of people, sort of thinking that this is the golden bullet that is going to just fix everything. It feels then, because there's human involved at every step in this process, and human is guiding it, as you said earlier. Human are making final decisions. Human have got to kind of figure this stuff out. That this is very much an assistant. It is an agent. It isn't something that's coming in to solve problems. It's coming in to exaggerate and highlight your capabilities and your focus and your strategy. It's going to accelerate everything, good and bad. That's a wake-up call, isn't it, for people who have just thought, life's going to be easy on the other side.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you speed up a bad process, you're going to get a lot more bad stuff faster. It's not going to be any good. Or the other side of it is what I'm seeing a lot of times when people try to apply AI is they get mediocre results, which I should say they get mediocre outputs, which then creates mediocre results. And then people go, hey, it's not worth our time to use AI. And they think that AI is the problem, and it's not AI. It's usually the process or the people that applies the AI. It's kind of like when you have AI SDRs, you have like an AI article writer for marketing, and it does a crappy job. It's usually because the training going into AI is crappy. It's not because the AI tech is not good, because I can name off 10 of the companies who can apply the same AI technology who get good results. So the only difference is the human involved and what you're giving to the AI model to actually work with. So it's being willing to think about it makes sense to me. Like, it's like the talent you have. Like, for example, if everyone had access to the exact same talent of humans, so you had this 1,000 group of people and all of them were the exact same, all of them were, at least hypothetically, the same. And if the only difference was the systems they were put into from a onboarding point of view, the team who had better onboarding, better systems would win with the same talent. The only difference is the systems and the experience you'd be going into. I heard a quote once from somebody who was in the systems, who was a mentor of mine. His name is Noah St. John. He talked about how you put an exceptionally talented person in a company with mediocre systems, and they will perform mediocrely, even if they're the most amazing talent person ever. If you put a mediocre person in a really good company with a really good system, they will win more likely, even if they're mediocre, because the systems will outperform the human every time. That makes sense? Or the culture. So having good culture, good systems, doesn't matter how good the AI tech is. If you don't apply it right, you'll fail every time if you don't have good systems and process in place.
People first AI, loving the sound of this. And I think, for most, particularly business owners, I guess, who are trying to, figure this out. And if they're getting resistance from staff and, the teams that they're working with, this is something that says, guys, look, we're actually really good at this stuff. Let's see if we can use this as an enabler rather than being fearful, like, oh, AI is coming, it's going to replace me. That kind of thing from last year feels a bit old now, but it's still there, I think, for lots of people. There really feels like there's hope here. But I've got a but that's coming in here, and I'm really interested in your view on this one, Jonathan. The but is about this human element, particularly if you look at, say, a salesperson. Salespeople, I'm going to be controversial here. Salespeople typically don't like admin. They don't like filling stuff out. They would much rather be working to preference, which is being in front of customers and working their magic. Let's face it, that is why they're paid for what they do. So they don't like the backup admin. And you've just said that it's about being patient and finding time to work out your systems and your processes. Surely that's at odds with what a sales team, particularly if you multiply that up and scale it up, not just to an individual, but to the whole team, what they would actually be wanting to do. This is not going to be an easy ask, is it, of getting sales and AI together?
It's correct. But let me give the example using momentum as the example. First off, I don't think salespeople should be in charge of systems. That's usually a systems admin or a RevOps or something like that. Salespeople need to have, they're not there for systems. They're there for a relationship. That's what a salesperson's for, right? And I want to use them for the strength, which is relationship. I'm not saying salespeople aren't good at systems in general. I'm saying that's not their role and responsibility. right? So there are, as example with momentum performs really, really freaking well when you have a good, clear sales process. And like momentum goes into a conversation just like you and I are having. And what it does is able to structure and piece together all the little pieces from our conversation. And then let's just say this was going to be going to a CRM. It can slice and dice it and clean it and then put it into a CRM. However, if you, Neil, if all you had in a CRM was one paragraph of stuff, and that's all you had, then that's all momentum is going to fill out for you. However, on the other side, if you said, okay, I know I need to have these 5 key things from every podcast, and I want to make sure I have this information about an AI technology. I want to make sure that anytime any guest talks about any AI tech, we put that to another field. Like you separate all this stuff out together. Having more clarity on that will mean that you as a host can then ask questions saying, okay, I need to make sure I ask about AI technology. I need to make sure I ask about books they might be reading. I need to ask about whatever. Like you'll have key points you want to bring up that then momentum will automate into a field because they're track it all for you, right? Same thing for sales reps. Like as long as they know that they don't have to take notes, but they say, okay, I'm the one who has to ask the question around pains or metrics or economic buyer or what the product's going to do for them, whatever the case is, they don't have to worry about the notes, but they have to ask the question because momentum's not going to make up the answer. It's going to only give or transcribe what's being said, right? So the more able you are to identify what do we want to know in each call, what do we want to know in each stage, what's important for us, and then who else in the team wants to know stuff. Like, for example, me in marketing, first call conversations, or I shouldn't say first call, any conversation with a customer from CS to sales is like prime for the most amazing data for marketers. I use momentum all the time, but I'm not on the calls because I get ICP rich data from the people who we're selling to every single day automated to me, right? And I have both a signal that sends me information through Slack, and I also have that same data stored in the CRM. So I hear like, where do they hear about us and what challenges are they having and what's the pains they're going through and what questions about the product do they have and all this stuff that in the past I would have had to have asked a sales rep in a closed loss meeting, but now I just get it fed to me. We don't ever have to have a meeting because it just gets to me. So, but I couldn't do that unless I had the infrastructure in place to be able to capture the data, know where it's going, and have a system in place to where I could be informed. If I didn't have that, it'd just be AI producing slop that I can't do anything with. Does that make sense? So it's this balance between saying, how can we make the job of the salesperson and a marketer easier by automating what used to be led by humans and let the AI take care of it? And let the humans, me and the salespeople, do what they're best at, which is relationships, or me using what I need to do from a marketing perspective to make messaging for humans, or sometimes now AI, around what we do. So I can then be found out and hopefully bought and keep the cycle going. Does that help, hopefully?
It does, and it kind of it's given me loads of questions, but loads of kind of, I guess, curiosity in many different ways. I mean, yeah, it's a kind of the thing I'm thinking here then is this whole kind of bridge between sales and marketing, because traditionally where sales and marketing have had good relationships, it is because they're working to a common strategy. It is because they've got a really strong, probably CRM system. There is this kind of common purpose that they're working to. Again, this feels like with the assistance of an AI platform, this feels like an accelerator, because it could be that if you have your, let's call it an AI sales assistant in that meeting with the prospect or with the client or customer, and also there's an AI marketing assistant on the other side of the CRM ready to pick it up. CRM sits still in the middle, but then both parties, sales and marketing people, so the humans, have their own version of an assistant or agent, we'll use the word agent now, to kind of help do the gluing together. It feels like then a piece of data, a piece of information then can have so much more value than it ever could have had, where it was just a piece of raw information. Whereas now it's got context, it's nuanced, it can be then cross-referenced against something else, all in kind of almost real time. This is supercharging everything, isn't it?
Yeah, I have a saying here. This is kind of a belief that I've put on momentum because the founders are people who have led this kind of belief, and so I put words to something they've been saying for a long time, and something I felt as well, which is one reason why I'm here at Momentum, because I was a customer of Momentum, and then I liked it so much, liked the team so much, that I begged the CEO to let me come on board. So I'm here because I love the tech and the team, but because we align in some beliefs, and one of those beliefs is We believe that humans should be the source of excellence in relationships, not for data delivery, not for data entry, and not for data sourcing. That's not what humans are there for, right? And the CRM exists because in the past we had to have some place where a human could type in information about whatever's happening with the customers. But now that AI can do it all, it's like, I don't know of any sales rep who says, I can't wait to do my CRM data entry today. I've never had that happen in 10 years of working with sales, and myself being a salesperson, I never felt that way, right? So we're taking work off the salesperson. That's not replacing them. We're augmenting and amplifying them, so we can make sure that instead of them spending 28% of their time actually selling, we can now spend 70% of our time actually selling versus 28. They get more revenue, more quota, more money. And everyone else in the team, product, finance, enablement, RevOps, marketing, everybody else gets all the data they need to. And there's no meetings that have to happen as a result. The meetings we then have are way more strategic, way more insightful, because all the data and all the work that no one liked to do anyways in the first place is all being done from AI. You know what I mean? And AI is to the point now where you can get good enough, at least with momentum in areas, you put systems in place in the back end of momentum, where the quality and the trust that you can have in the data is so good that there's a lot of teams who, like, for example, with momentum, there's an option where you can have the momentum either serve up the data to the salesperson to confirm. And every single time we do that, after a month, they're like, yeah, we trust it enough. We don't need to do this anymore. Just feed the system. And now we just feed information in, and what you can do as a result when you have good data, like there's so many cool things you can do from an automation standpoint when you have good, clean data, because a lot of processes from a business point of view relies on triggers or data to tell you, okay, this thing happens when this thing happens, and this thing happens when this thing happens. But unless you have the data to feed each one of those triggers, you can't automate anything, But once you do have it, it opens up the world of so many cool things of what you can do to not only help the data entry from a CRM point of view, but also the business processes that the CRM usually governs. Does that make sense? Hopefully. So.
Yeah, it really does. And I think I've just, the way you were describing that there, I'm working with a client at the moment who are in a really interesting situation. They have a very, very broad product range. And one of the big kind of features at the moment is this kind of bundling together of compatible products to make specific solutions for customers, and particularly kind of OEM customers. So kind of high end, big ticket, big corporates, basically. And one of the big challenges that they have is this kind of being in a situation, maybe in a sales situation, where they have to almost think on their feet, react very, very quickly, have the information to hand, be able to bundle together product solutions literally on the fly. And it's very difficult without a fully featured CRM. But what we're saying here is that with almost an AI layer sitting above or below, and again, helping to empower the CRM, that could literally be in real time. The AI assistant there is giving you the simple answer by listening to the conversation. I mean, wow, that just that's a total game changer, isn't it? And it brings out all the best of that organization.
Yeah, it also shows you all the holes you have, because if you have an AI automating all the processes, it could be that there's one key question or one key data point that your team's not asking. Like, for example, if I want to know where people heard about us, but the sales team's not asking that question, momentum again is not going to make it up. So that just means that either it needs to be a skill that they acquire of saying, hey, how'd you hear about us? Which is a nice, easy question to ask. Or maybe it's something else that the CEO or the marketer or the sales leader needs to hear about. It only will happen is if it's prodded or if the question is being asked by the salesperson, so it's just two sides of understanding. It's really freaking awesome to have data automated. And then you realize there's a lot of things we're missing, not because of the AI, but because the human's not asking the question. So it's kind of two sides of the coin of making sure that you understand that data is awesome, but also will show you your weak spots, which is, I think, a good thing, because otherwise you'd have no idea that wasn't happening in the first place, So I think in order to really understand how to accelerate, you have to understand where your strengths are and your blind spots are, and AI does a very good job of helping you with both.
Yeah, it really does, isn't it? It's almost coming in as the sort of the fairy godmother with the magic wand and kind of pointing it, and the
Yeah.
magic dust seems to sprinkle in certain areas, and
Yes.
and maybe, and I'm interested though, maybe in some areas not. I mean, are there things or things that you're finding actually in your work where it's actually struggling, where AI isn't actually feeling at the moment in the short term like it's going to be providing benefit? Are there kind of areas where it's not resonating at all?
My apologies, glitch out for 1 second. I think you said, is there areas where AI itself as a technology is not doing very well? Is that the question, right?
Yeah.
I can just speak from my personal experience. There are, even though, for example, I could have AI go out and do this amazing deep research on whatever, and it can help automate a lot of things. The actual work of creation, of thought leadership, of like creating something new, I use AI as a thought partner all the time to kind of bounce back and forth and be like a devil's advocate for me. But the original thought is not usually coming from AI. Like that's coming from me, you know? And so if the expectation is that AI is going to create for you all these cool new ideas of what you could do, it's not, it can't replace the human there. It does an amazing job of like taking several different concepts and smushing them together to make something new like that. I use it for that all the time. Um, but from when it comes to like when I post on LinkedIn or I'm trying to think of new content, that original thought still comes from me. So if someone's expecting original thought to come from AI, it can do a really good job of combining things, but from an original thought point of view, it's not the best so far. I think there's a world where it will be because like OpenAI released 6 months ago this thing called the 5 levels of AI, and one of the levels after agents, which is where we are right now, is called innovation or creation of AI. So it's going to be that level of AI where we can actually do some really cool creative thought, and people get intimidated by that. But to me, I'm like, I would rather have like a thought partner like yourself, like a human, where I could have someone like a human like you, Neil. I say, hey, Neil, can you and I just talk and brainstorm about things? Like having access to an AI that could do that, that actually can have some original thought would be freaking cool. I don't think it'd be replacing anything. It's just another entity that has original thought. Like who cares, right? I look at it and I like to compare this to Marvel. It's kind of like thinking about Tony Stark with Jarvis. Like even though he built Iron Man in a cave, his true Iron Man self didn't come about until he had Jarvis. But Jarvis wasn't going to create Iron Man either. Jarvis had the ability to, but it didn't. It had to take the original creative thought of Tony Stark to make Iron Man. Does that make sense? So I view it the same way as moving in the future of like saying AI is going to be that amplifier of original thought, not necessarily the creator of it. And if it does, like we're not in this world, but it'll be interesting to see what original thought it can do once it gets there. But I don't think it'll be a replacement of me. It's just going to be it'd be like you and me. You don't replace me. You're you. You're individual, right? Not you don't replace me. You're just another entity in the universe in the UK who has creative thoughts. The same thing with AI. It'll just be that times a lot. So what someone can do with that is what's going to be again separating it from anything else, you know. So I'll give you that. I'll give you one more thing too. Um, AI is not very good with complexity, with messiness. Like in life, there's a lot of messiness. You know, AI likes it can structure unstructured stuff. It likes order. It likes process like systems. It doesn't do well when it doesn't have flow or direction. You know, humans are very good at being nimble on the feet of dealing with not knowing what's going to happen next, with not knowing what's supposed to be in the process, like all this kind of stuff. It's the messiness of life that AI is not very good at navigating. Um, and like there's the minuscule task of if I stacked on top of itself a bunch of tasks that I have to do day to day in marketing, AI can replace that part of me very easily. What it cannot do right now is like when I have a sales rep ask me for a content piece, then I have my CEO ask me for something different, and then 2 hours later something changes, and then my personal life goes crazy, and like all this messiness of life, AI doesn't do a very good job with that so far because it likes order and structure and things in a certain place, and we humans are much better at that. So I think to kind of shorten this down because I feel like I'm rambling now. Um, it's the messiness, knowing that I don't think anytime soon it's going to be replacing that side of our ability to deal with messiness and be able to make success out of it. And then two is just the original thought. It's not going to replace that part of you anytime. So if I were anyone listening, double down on your ability to create original thought, and really allow yourself the privilege of letting AI take the menial tasks, like, for example, data entry, so you can do the things that only you can do as a human, which is your own unique strength.
So are we going to be then seeing in the coming, I'll say months, because I don't know, we're looking at years here. Are we going to be seeing sales reps moving almost to sales managers, and sales managers moving to sales directors, and sales directors going into the stratosphere or something? I don't know, because they've got to go somewhere higher too,
Yeah,
being then infilled below by sales agents, because it feels like no matter what role we have in sales, and there'll be a lot of marketers listening to this, the same I feel
yeah,
applies in marketing, is that you are going to be having, as a human, a team of these agents, assistants, whatever you want to call them, around you, which ultimately then makes you the manager, because you're managing them, you're leading them, you're kind of prompting
correct.
them. They're all doing their magic, but you are in charge. And so you've just elevated yourself up because you're able to look after these entities, these agents. So you're now in a more senior position than you were
Yeah.
before they were there. And by doing that, we all become managers, we all become leaders, we are all accelerating our careers in filling with, as you say, these menial tasks, potentially thought creators in the future, but we're all going to have teams around us. Is that kind of where do you think we're headed, particularly in sales and marketing?
Yes, there's two sides of this, which I don't think we have an understanding of what's going to happen, but I'm going to give you two lenses of this. One side is, I wrote an article for a revenue magazine a little while ago called "The VP of Everything," like where I think things are going to go. Where, as an example, we're not here yet, but there will be very soon a future where I will be able to create an AI automation agent team, so to speak. Like I have this, think about it like a interchangeable Lego block. That I have all these things like marketing and thought leadership and AI strategy and all this stuff that's in my own team. And we'll soon have the ability where I can plug that in to 4 or 5 companies at the same time. And all my AI agent team does is bring me the things only I can do as a human. And then it's doing everything else, content creation and strategy work and all this other stuff, because the technology will be such in the future. You can literally just plug in my team of stuff and then just feeds me information based on that. Right. We're not there yet, but that's one example of where it's going. In that world, if I could expand myself, so instead of me working in just one company, I could work in 5 companies. That's a way different life, which means that I could be leading marketing in 5 companies, not just one, which means that there's 5 jobs that would have been taken by 5 different people. And now it's one person. So the world we're going to is this same concept applied everywhere. Instead of having 30 SDRs, you're going to have one SDR doing the work of 30, you know? So, but again, the challenge is right now we're in this transitory phase where we're not there yet. It takes a lot of work, a lot of systems, a lot of the messiness, all the stuff we've been talking about that's not ready for it yet, but that's the direction we're going. So it's going to be interesting to see where this is all going to go. And the one caveat to this, one thing I'm going to say is we don't know the answer to yet, is this will all depend on the buyer experience. We as buyers don't know enough about how we like using AI or not. Does that make sense? And we don't know like how complex of a deal or product or service that we want to have an AI interjected. Like example is, do I want to buy a house that's worth $1 million from an AI avatar who could hologram me into a house and show me everything and answer all the questions and all the stuff? My answer is maybe. I just drove in a Waymo with no driver in Phoenix a month ago with no driver. I never thought I'd ever drive in a car with no driver before, but I did a month ago, So I don't know what that bad experience is going to be like. And there's AI technology now that can literally replace the top of funnel. Like as soon as someone hits the website, they can have a conversation with an AI agent, shows them a demo, answers advanced questions, does everything that a human used to have done in the past, but now it's all AI. And once they enter into an actual talking to a person, instead of them entering in at stage 1, they're entering at stage 5. So that means that the skills that the salesperson needs to have is way more robust in that area versus before. This is the thing, like we don't know where it's going to go. And it could be that the buyer says, I don't want to use AI at all. I only work with humans. Like what is the buyer expecting? I'll give you one example and then I'll shut up. Klarna, 6 months ago, replaced a lot of their customer support team with AI. So they laid off a bunch of people, replaced a bunch of people with AI. And then literally about a month ago, they started hiring those same people back because the customers didn't like the experience, even though it was really good AI tech. So they're overcorrecting from what they did before. So the more and more we go into this, the more I feel like that humans, what level this is, I don't know, but humans on some level want to interact with a human, even if AI could answer all their questions. It's kind of like I could go into ChatGPT right now and ask all slew of questions because it's this massive database of any question I ever wanted to ask, but I still go ask humans for their same opinion. I still go have a relationship with a human because I can, you know? So it's just this world of understanding that I don't know if we know yet where humans are going to want to have humans involved with their lives, with buying, with relationships, with any of this stuff, but we're figuring it out, you know? That world's going to be the world where the transition and what's going to look like on the side is no one knows the answer to that question. But it's really understanding, what do you like as a human? What do you want to determine, both in your own work of how you experience other people versus how you experience others. Like, I, I'm going to try and be very real. I don't know if anyone wants to come to the GTM AI Academy and then have a conversation with my avatar. Like, I wouldn't want to do that. I would love to do that for Michael Jordan, but I wouldn't do that for any Joe schmuck out there. I'm like, I don't know who this person is. I don't care about their avatar, you know? So it's just one of these things where you just got to figure out, where are people at? What do you want to do? And how do we shift our expectations of what we do, both buying and selling, as a result?
Mm. So many thoughts and ideas, and I
Yeah.
guess it's continual learning, isn't it? This is the thing. Well, what are
Yeah.
your kind of go-to resources for just keeping on board with all this stuff? Because, as you said right at the start of our conversation, that this thing is moving so fast, almost too fast to be able to keep up. So where'd you go? Who are you following?
Um, I, that I probably shouldn't say who I follow, because I literally follow a lot of people, and so if I give my list, it'd be overwhelming. So I'm going to give you a few just to make sure it's not overwhelming for people, because again, I'm a crazy person. Um, the I try to do my best. So, not to be a self plug, but this is literally what I try to do: is I try to consume a lot of areas so that I can give that, kind of not filtered down, but kind of like segregated views, so it's a little easier to catch up with things. So I mean, I'd love to say I'm one person to pay attention to. There's a guy who wrote a book, called Co-Intelligence. His name's Ethan Mullick. He's a great resource. He's on LinkedIn. I'd highly recommend following him if you're not already. He's awesome. Then you have people on Twitter, like, obviously any of the thought leaders there, like him or not like him. Elon Musk is someone to look at in the AI space. Sam Altman, who's the CEO of OpenAI. Dario, of Anthropic. He's the CEO of Anthropic. Like, all the CEOs, I'd follow all of them because they're obviously putting out stuff all the time. Andrew, I can never see his last name right. NG. He's one of the OGs of the AI space. I highly recommend following him because he is fascinating to follow. And there's one more. She's on LinkedIn. Her name's Allie Miller. She's a thought leader in the business AI space. She's awesome too. So there's a lot of good resources out there to follow. Hopefully that not too much, but it gives you some people to look at.
Wonderful. Yeah, I think we'll list all those out for everybody listening and watching,
Okay.
so that you can just kind of work your way down through the list. So we'll pop that into the description. If
Cool.
somebody wants to contact you, Jonathan, how and where should they do that? LinkedIn is obviously a place where you're super active. Is that a good place to
Yes.
connect with you?
It's the best filter. Yeah. So I'm involved in a lot of different places, but if anyone wants to get hold of me, my inbox is open. Just don't pitch slap me, because if you pitch slap me, I usually delete you pretty quickly because I don't have time for it. So, but anyone who's actually a human just says, "Hey, I'm wanting to connect," I'll connect with anybody. So I'm more than happy to have a conversation. I love talking and meeting new people, like you and I connected and talking now. So like this kind of stuff I love to do. And I'm not opposed to buying things. I just don't like being pitch slapped. So just be human. Which is weird I'm saying that, because I'm an AI nut, but if you use AI to talk to me, I probably won't interact with you, which is the funny thing. So there
But
you go.
isn't that just a wonderful sense check of where we are today? I mean,
Yeah,
that kind of says, the irony in that just says everything, doesn't it? It's like,
that's
yeah,
right.
we both love AI, but let's keep it
But
human.
yeah,
There's
my
irony in that.
currency is connection. Like, I connect with people. That's my currency. That's what feeds my soul. And so the more you can do it, be a human and just talk to me, like, the more I'll be willing to help. But the more you use AI to talk to me, I'm like, nope, don't got time for this. I can recognize AI shenanigans from a mile away. So bring it on. Now, if you show me AI tech, I love it. If you use AI to be the thing you think is going to get my attention, probably not. So
Wonderful. Jonathan Kvarfordt, thank you so much for your time today.
thank you, Neil. Appreciate you, sir.